What I can tell you without fear of contradiction is that from the files that we have evaluated, and especially the murder cases, which as a matter of course ought to have been dealt with by way of an inquest, we will be recommending to the appointing authority if it is possible to have a special unit of the High Court to deal with these matters and dispose of them. So all we can do is to justify the need for a special unit of the High Court to accelerate the disposal of the cases that we have dealt with. In respect of the offences of homicide, while it is clear that the alleged offences took place during the defined post-election violence period, there were material weaknesses in the quality of evidence available to support prosecutions. In most instances, the scenes of crime could not be identified with an acceptable measure of certainty. Clearly, due to the fluid situation of the time, files could not be compiled and placed before magistrates timelessly, as required by the law to facilitate the conduct of inquiries to establish the circumstances in which the deaths had occurred. A cursory examination of the files themselves show that they are incomplete, not containing essential information, such as witness statements of complainants, or even investigating officers did not have an opportunity to record their statements. In most files, complainants fled their homes when they saw neighboring houses set ablaze, whereas other complainants received information of there being an imminent attack. Most complainants sought refuge in churches, police stations, trading centers, health centers, stadia, just like the other group. Some complainants saw their houses being burnt from a distance, but they were unable to identify the raiders, invaders, and/or arsonists. Some of the complainants stated that the suspects moved in large groups armed with crude weapons. Generally, the identification of the alleged perpetrators was inadequate, only referring to them by their ethnicity or the way of dressing or the kind of songs that they were singing. Some of the complainants noted that some groups chanted war songs. If these cases were investigated under a different legislation as mass atrocities occurring during a conflict period, the threshold would be a bit lowered. The elements of crime would be a bit broadened. There would be inbuilt in that legislation reparation. There would be inbuilt in that legislation a fund that the government can tap into to help the victims. So the restriction is also brought by the kind of legislation that we are applying.
Before I get the copy of the speech,